absolutely brilliant to have such a good turnout, and thank you for giving up time on Wednesday morning. This meeting has come about because we are facing a major crisis nationally, but mirrored in Sheffield. And because of that crisis, SYMAAG, my organisation, South Yorkshire Migration and Asylum Action Group, have come together with Nomad to organise this jointly. And it's been a really good exercise in partnership. In the past, in my past life, I used to do a lot of consultancy work about partnerships, and I have to say this is one of the most positive partnerships I've ever had anything to do with. So I'm really, really grateful to Nomad and to my comrades in SYMAAG. I'm going to say a bit more about SYMAAG later, but I just want to touch on the aims today. So, obviously the part of what we're doing today is just to make sure everybody understands just how severe this crisis is. And its impact on everyone who is homeless, but also on organisations and agencies, and obviously from our point of view, also its very specific impact on refugees. Then we want to spend a bit of time at the second part of the meeting to explore our ideas for responding to this crisis and to try to start to build next steps. I mean, we see this very much as the beginning of a piece of work, because unfortunately nobody has a magic wand to solve this crisis. And I won't go into the politics of it now, but I'm sure Holly, who's speaking for us later, may. But basically it's a crisis that has been in the making for a long time and has just reached the level it is now. So I'm going to start by handing over to Karen from Nomad to outline their experience and her understanding of the crisis. We've got a number of speakers being very bossy about how much time they've got. So that we have time for discussion at the end. Thank you.
So people don't know, I'm from Nomad. I'm at Zoo. So yeah, I'm head of services for Nomad Open Doors, Baltic Veterans and Charity Veterans. So Nomad is a charity that houses single homeless people, and we came up with this idea because of difficulties that we were experiencing. So in September 23, in September 23, Steve, our CEO, went out for drinks with two friends who work for the Home Office. And he came back and said to me, do you know that the Home Office have changed rules where asylum seekers have to leave their accommodation 7 days after a positive asylum decision? Which we didn't know. So we started asking around, asking questions, and basically we're seeking confirmation from people. But the turn, So at that point we sent emails, asking for anybody to help us, basically we were saying in the emails, we're concerned, we don't know what to do, we need to help. But there was a turning point for me in that I received a call about a 19-year-old young man who was going to be on the streets, and said to me, if you don't help him, nobody can help him. So this was the turning point, and I just thought, we've got to do something. Sorry, what's the next one? So where we are right now is we normally have 20 to 30 referrals a month. In November and December we received 139 and a staggering 142 in January. We filled our last room in January. We stopped carrying out assessments in January due to lack of properties. We therefore had no choice but to put a hold on all assessments and create a waiting list. this week that waiting list was around 200 people, and we decided, and this is something that we have never done in the 22 years I've been working at NAMAD, we closed out this completely. We just said no more referrals because there's nothing we can do to help. And it's fair to say that in some form or other, most of the people who will be sleeping on the streets will refer to us. So I just want to tell you, we've got 4 people that I'm just going to discuss with you. And it's about how would you feel if this was you. So the first one is a lady called Joanna. Obviously it's not her own name. It's not a real name. Her problems arose because she was lesbian. She went to her mum to tell her mum this, which, you know, we might all do, share how we're feeling with our parents. But unfortunately, Joanna didn't live in England, she lived in Zimbabwe, and so she was, her mother rang the police. She was arrested, she was imprisoned, she was raped on a daily basis until she was cured of her lesbianism. She was infected with HIV. She was released. They found a man who was willing to marry her. That's not my words. She spent a couple of years with this man, then went back to her mum and said, I can't live like this. You know, this is who I am a lesbian. And her mother got straight on the phone to the police again, so she fled. Again, you know, how would you feel if this was you? A young man called Sam, he was a farmer. You know, just a nice family man, working on his farm. His brother was quite political and took part in demonstrations. He lived in Turkey, which I find quite shocking because some other week on holiday. His brother was arrested, he was beaten to death. His body was left on the brother's doorstep, so on Sam's doorstep. But that wasn't enough of a message. And so Sam was arrested. Again, he was raped. Never told anybody until he came to England. He fled England. When he came to us, we did workshops with people, and I couldn't find him. So I went to look for him, and I found him cowering in the corner, because he was scared, because there were so many people there. So that's Sam. And again, another lady, this girl she's English. She lived in a family home, quite a strange setup. A few generations of the family in one house. When I did the assessment with her, I asked her, are you a victim of domestic violence? And she said to me, what do you mean by that? Emotional, physical, sexual? And she said, yes, sexual abuse stopped when I was 21, but the rest of it is still going on. So she was controlled, she was manipulated, she was made to feel that she couldn't survive without her family. She was bullied at school, she left school at 14. This girl had no safe space. I worked with her on and off for a few years, and she told me that when she said that the sexual abuse had stopped when she was 21, in actual fact, she told me the sexual abuse stopped the day we got her out of that house. Because of the bullying at school, she had no safe place. She, wherever she was a target, she was a victim. And I said to her, you know, I can help you apply to council, you'll get priority, no problem whatsoever. And she said to me, so you're going to be another person who takes my choices away from me? And I said, no, absolutely not. She didn't want to be on her own, she didn't want to be in council accommodation, she wanted to be in shared accommodation so she was safe. A few years after we were working with her, I said to her, why did you never tell anybody what happened to you? And she said, I did try and tell people, but nobody asked me the question. And apparently I was the first person to ever ask her if she had actually been sexually abused when she was 25. That had happened when she was started when she was 4. So 21 years and nobody asked this woman. And this is the last one. So that's Steve. And the reason that I'm doing this is that I want you to see how varied our client group is. And that it's not just the fact that not just refugees, it's not just people who've been abused, it's anyone who can come to us. So, last one, Steve. He was around 55, I think, when he came to us. Had a relationship breakdown. He'd been married for 25 years. And sometimes some men rely on the wife to do a lot of things for them, like cooking and cleaning and all that kind of stuff. Not suggesting anybody in this room would be like that. But he lacked the basics of life administration. He was living in a tent, and I know that Framework went out to see him, and they offered him a place in the hostel, but he said no because he was too scared. He'd never been around that environment before, and so he came to us. I think he's been with us for 5 years now. Is he doing well? So, from Nomad's point of view, what do we need? We need more private landlords, we need more HMOs, we need your support.
Can you explain what HMOs are?
Sorry. So we did shared accommodation because we work with single people, and I would say at the beginning 90% of the people we work with aren't working, and so they have to have a room in a shared house. So HMO is typically it's a 6-bedroom house. Everybody has their own bedroom, the shared bathroom, and the kitchen. And I think, given the cost of living crisis, quite frankly, it's the most affordable option for our clients right now. So we need some more HMOs, but we need your support. We need you to be talking about this. We need you to not walk away today and think somebody else will do this. We need you to be telling your friends and you to be telling people you know. Just don't let's push it under the carpet. Let's just all work together and see what we can do. So I've just answered that one. So what can you do to help me spread the word? Oh, I've not changed that. When you talk 4 times, it says word and not word. So,
I think you're a bit busy, Karen.
So you can spread the word. Do you know any private landlords? And this is a small one that will cost you nothing. Just like and share our social media posts on No, I Don't Endorse or Fortress Lettings. So when I showed you that photo in slide 3 of, I said the thing that changed everything for me was the 19-year-old. And I deliberately made you think that he was a refugee, but he's not. He's somebody who, from the age of 14, has volunteered with Nomad. He came to do his work experience with us. He comes back every year. We call him Mary's volunteer now, actually. He's not to do with the rest of us. He's in his 2nd year of university at University of Sheffield, doing psychology. But more importantly, he's my son. And I just want you to think, and I'm not suggesting that anybody in this room will think this way, but some people do think that if you look a certain way, you deserve less. So when you look back on slide 3, you see, it's his passport photo, so it's a shocking photo, which was deliberate. But this is him on night out with me and his 2nd mother. Actually, his first choice mother, but he's still with me. So do you think he's more deserving now you know who he is? So that's all from me. Right, so Nomad is a homeless charity that is 35 this year, and I've been at Nomad for 22 years, and in all that time I've always worked with private landlords, and I know that some private landlords get bad press, and some of them deserve it. But we had a scheme where we matched tenants to landlords in HMOs, and we realised that we were doing the work for landlords for them. And so in 2020, in the middle of the pandemic, we launched Fortress Lettings. So I think it's a fantastic scheme. It's our baby, we launched it, we love everything about it, we think you do a good job. And most importantly, we only work with pretty decent landlords. I mean, we've got one of the landlords here with us today. I was going to speak to you a little bit later. But different things on offer. We can do guaranteed rent. We can just fill the property for free. We will do whatever we need to do to house these people. I know some people may think that I'm coming up here and I'm selling 4 trees because we want to make money. We don't want to, we do want to make money. But it's not about money. It's about people. And we just need to house people in any way, shape or form. So, yeah, we will guarantee the rent. Yeah, we will manage it, but equally we will just match people to properties, and that is our job. job done, and that will be done free of charge because we just need to have people.
So I said at the beginning this is a partnership, and the other half of the partnership, we know that is SYMAAG, and there's some information here, and you've got a leaflet on your tables, you've got a pile of leaflets on your tables about our organisation. I just want to say a couple of things before Holly and Asso, actually two of our members, speak a little bit more about the refugee experience. First of all, SYMAAG is a campaign group and an action group. In our title, the word action is very much a key word. We're not a charity, and we're deliberately not a charity because we want to be able to campaign politically. As you know, there are limits on charities about what they can and can't do. We're entirely volunteer run. We have no paid staff, no premises. It's entirely about personal commitment. And we're a very diverse organisation. I co-chair the organisation with Madam Chair, who can wave his hand, he's somewhere in here. He's on the floor, our official photographer. And also with a woman called San Senek, Turkish woman who is an activist in the trade union movement. And we have members with lived experience, one of whom you'll hear from in a minute, who are either going through the increasingly onerous asylum process or have succeeded in getting leave to remain, which Karen mentioned, but then the hurdles aren't over, as we will hear. So if anybody's interested in knowing more, you can contact us, get on our mailing list and come to our meetings. But I'm going to hand you over to Holly, whose background is very much in housing and working with refugees, and she's going to give you a bit more of the refugee perspective. Thank you. Is that on? Yeah, great.
So hi everyone, I'm Holly, like Emma said. I'm a member of SYMAAG. I'm doing a PhD at Sheffield Uni at the moment, but before that I worked in homelessness services for about 10 years, so I know a little bit about this, I like to think. So Karen's already talked about the fact that obviously homelessness is something that can affect anyone, and I think that is really, really important, all types of different groups. I'm going to talk specifically about the situation for refugees. Obviously, this is SYMAAG's focus as a migration and asylum action group. But it's also something that's a huge, huge issue recently. Part of the rise in homelessness and perhaps even a big part of it has been amongst newly granted refugees. Over the past year particularly. So it's definitely not a new issue. This is something that's been going on for a really long time, but it is also something that's getting really significantly worse. I'm going to talk quite generally about some of the particular problems that refugees face, because Asso is very kindly going to talk to us about his personal experience of the system, and Lesan from City Sanctuary is also going to talk about some of the kind of cases that we're seeing in the city. The policy kind of situation is that over the past year the government decided it wanted to clear the asylum backlog, so it started making a lot of decisions quite quickly. That in itself is obviously a good thing, but there was no thought about what would happen to these people once they received status. That was combined with last summer the government had the brilliant idea of reducing the amount of time that people have to leave their asylum accommodation from the already very, very short 28 days to just 7 days, which is just absurd. That led to a massive rise in homelessness, and a lot of people called them out on it, and that policy was quietly reversed in December, but it already had a huge impact, and that's just carried on. So the kind of culmination of those things is that the government's own statistics show that between July and December last year there was a 1,000% increase in refugees who received their status and had been in asylum accommodation within the past 2 months, left asylum accommodation within the past 2 months, rough sleeping, so 1,000%. And that's of course just the tip of the iceberg. Most refugees will fall in the hidden homeless category. They'll be doing things like sleeping on the floor of the room of someone they met in asylum accommodation, or sleeping in a car, or sleeping on the shop floor of a friend of a friend. So those rough sleeping figures of 1,000% is just the kind of, the tip of it. So when people get their refugee status, they face numerous issues in getting accommodation. I think, as Karen mentioned, as with kind of the majority of single adults, a lot of them will fall into what's called the non-priority need category, which means that there's no obligation on the council to provide them with emergency accommodation. So for most people, what that looks like is that after being in a state of limbo for often years and years and years while they wait for their claim to be processed, they then suddenly have 28 days to sort everything out, leave their accommodation and move somewhere else. And I think it's just worth noting that that's significantly less than the time that local authorities are given under the Homelessness Reduction Act, which is the legislation that kind of governs this, to help people. So if someone makes a homelessness application, the local authority is given 56 days to help them. And I think what that says is that 56 days has been decided legally to be the reasonable amount of time, but for some reason, refugees are given just 28. So obviously 28 days is a really, really short amount of time, and so for most people what should be a moment of joy, or at least one of feeling a bit more secure when they finally receive their status, really quickly just becomes one of fear and panic, thinking about where they're going to live. So obviously to have accommodation you need income, and as there's pretty much a ban on working when you're an asylum seeker, which the Sheffield Lift the Bank Coalition, I'm sure there's some people here from that, are doing a lot of work on at the moment. But what that means is almost all people aren't in employment when they get their refugee status. So they'll need to make a benefit claim. And even if you claimed universal credit on the first day that you received your status, it still takes 5 weeks for you to get your first payment. So that's already taken you over that 28 days. Those factors and the fact that the asylum support payments that people receive when they're waiting are so low means that when they receive their status, most people have no money to their name at all. So obviously, then the costs associated with finding a tenancy and moving, a deposit for instance, are really, really difficult, kind of out of reach. I think not many people, however kind of organised and competent they are, would genuinely be able to say that within 28 days they'd be able to open a bank account, find a job or make a benefit claim, find a tenancy and secure that tenancy and move in. Like I know I wouldn't be able to do that, not a chance. But that's the amount of time that people are given. And, you know, what for refugees, that whole situation is exacerbated by an unfamiliarity with the UK system, which is incredibly complex at times. You know, like I said, I worked in homelessness for nearly a decade, and at times I still find the bureaucracy kind of incredibly confusing. So people are trying to navigate, and also they're doing this in a second language. Some people are still learning English, have very limited English. Even those who have very good English, it's not their first language. So that adds another layer of complexity. And then finally, just to say very briefly, these are all people who, by very virtue of the fact that they've got refugee status, it's recognised that they've been through serious trauma. I'm not going to talk much about that because I know Asa is going to talk a bit more about it, but when people talk about this process of suddenly being made homeless when they receive their status, it's talked about in terms of a lack of control, a real fear for personal safety, particularly if you are rough sleeping, obviously, and just long-term mental health impacts that go on much beyond this process. So I think for anyone, having a stable place to live is, you can't do the rest of life without those things, right? If you don't have a stable place to live, how are you going to get a job? How are you going to get back into education potentially? How are you going to integrate yourself into a community if you don't know where that community is? And just having to think every night about where you're going to sleep means it's impossible to think about anything else. You're just in survival mode. And that's true for the people who are sofa surfing or in kind of the other types of hidden homelessness as it is for people rough sleeping. It's night by night. You can't do anything else. So just to kind of, sum up, I think obviously a lot of the things I've talked about are a result of central government policy and central government decision making. And actually it is interesting that just this month, all the main refugee and homelessness charities in the UK got together to write to the Home Secretary to ask for major changes to the system to be made. So for instance, they asked for the amount of time people are given before they're evicted from their asylum accommodation to be increased. They asked for those evictions to be staggered so that the housing system in particular areas wasn't overwhelmed. So it's clear that as a country and overall, we need a much better, fully comprehensive, better funded transition process from asylum accommodation into independent living. And that's something that needs to start a lot earlier and be a lot more flexible so that people don't end up in these horrible situations. But in the absence of those changes, which probably aren't forthcoming, there's still, scope for actions in the city. And like Emma said, what we really hope is that today is going to be the start of a conversation about what options there might be, what wiggle room there is, and what we can do. So I'm going to hand over to Aso. So just very briefly, Aso is a refugee originally from East Kurdistan in Iran. He's also a writer, a journalist, a researcher, along with many other skills. So I'm going to hand over. Thank you.
Everybody who can attend today. Today, everyone. First of all, I would like to say thank you to SYMAAG and Norman, which has organized this important meeting, even to talk about this kind of being which is being dehumanized, actually. Not dehumanized, infra-dehumanized. My speech outline is about 6 points. Homelessness journey before coming to UK. Homelessness is directly related to issue of security. Losing all life support possibility, lack of integration place, and support institution to integrate and fight homelessness, lack of control in the hand of the rule, constantly thinking about getting kicked out and where you are going to live next makes you not thinking about anything else. And then endless homelessness. So my first point is about homelessness journey before coming to the UK. Every refugee, every asylum seeker that you know, everyone before they came an entrance to any country, they have been for short time or long time homeless or homelessness during their journey. So recurring homelessness and then journey in the UK between lots of different accommodation like hostel, hotel, share house, room to room, door to door, from house to house, that make you very feel insecure. You don't know really how and when this kind of situation going to end. You don't know how much you should change your place, how many times you should go to this room and that room. First, next point is about homelessness directly related to issue of security. Fleeing a dictatorship to find a safety, but still no safety here. And then all this are a result of creating a hostile environment with deliberate choice and anti-immigration policy. Personally, I still have no feel safe. You know, when you feel in security for a long time, it's not easy to go back to normal life, even if you have a safe place or a society that can keep, and this society you feel okay, nothing, no one or no any organization can make you and put you in the kind of put your life in kind of danger. But after you moved and you came from that situation to safe country, you still have this kind of insecurity. And if you are still have no a place which you can call a home, if you are still living in different room and different place, and losing all life support possibility. When you migrated, you have to start everything again from the beginning, because automatically you lose all your possibility, including language, job, career, and then maybe skill and your connection, family, friends, credit, all your being you had before, you automatically you lose it, and you have to start everything and rebuild everything again. And no matter how much you are a strong person or important person, this kind of losing can make you automatically vulnerable, can make you homelessness, can make you very defenseless, and then you have to start from the beginning, everything again. You have to prove yourself. When I came in this country, no one's know me, and right now I have a lot of friends because I spent more than 2 years here in this society, living and making connection. And in this case, if you have no this ability to rebuild your life, and then you are faced in this kind of homelessness more than middle of people in this situation. If you have noticed about it. Okay. And unfortunately, lack of integration plays in this area is one of the reasons that you, if you have more integration in place, you can find your community. If you are homeless one day, they can help you, they can bring you to their house, for example, till you can find your place to live. Yeah. And lack of control in the hand of the rule. Without any power over your situation, you cannot control your life because you have no rights like a normal person, non-citizen, sorry. Yeah, 1 minute. Okay. Thank you so much for everything.
Thank you, Aso could speak for a lot longer, I'm sure, but I hope you've got a real sense of what that experience is like from what he's given us. I'm going to hand over to Blasan now from City of Sanctuary, because he works directly with people like Aso and many others, and he's just going to add a little bit from his experience of what's called the Spring Project there.
Thank you. I'm not going to explain everything because you already know there's no need of repeating what's the complexity of the problem. So we're already much aware of that one. So I think I want to think about the bigger picture. What is the solution? So like Karen mentioned, we need houses, not just a building, a long-term, sustainable, ethical, life-giving, empowering place for people to give dignity and life, and they can move forward. Many of them are doctors, engineers, plumbers, builders, merchants, so human beings leaving their country because of unexpected situations they are facing. So this is the first City of Sanctuary in the UK. We are in a privileged position to support people seeking sanctuary. So rather than seeing this as a pressure, see this as an opportunity. What can we do together? So one of the main things is, like Karen mentioned, so provision of housing is one of the key areas. So Spring work in partnership with the 6 different organizations, mainly that is City Council. They are one of our amazing partners. Second one is citizens by Sheffield, because when somebody is receiving a positive decision, they need universal credit, and financial support is really key. Education, employment, and the other area key we focus on is mental health, because people are fleeing persecution, suffering, trauma. So that is one of the areas we work in partnership with 6 different organizations. On the back of the housing crisis, we noticed that there is no point blame game on local authorities, because the housing provision is so limited. So how do we work in partnership with the other organizations? That's the time we work very closely with Nomad. So when she said the 200 waiting list, we might be the 70-80% referrals. So we also I feel like that's me. Sorry. But we need to see. So we work in partnership with the places for people to other great places to homewards projects. So we work closely with them. Refugees at home. Also, we do some research. What is actually happening in other cities? What is going well in other cities? So all cities are facing the same crisis. What can we bring a solution successfully proven in other cities that can be replicated in our city, can be used in our city for sanctuary seekers? That's also create opportunity. So that's the place. So we bring different solutions, connect with the city council. So that's in the background also happenings. So solution is available, but these kind of gatherings are so vital. Rather than blame game, feel sorry, guilty, we can't go like this. What is the solution? One thing is, I want to emphasize that when we are bringing solution to sanctuary seekers, it's not just for sanctuary seekers. It is a good news for the whole city. So, and just think about the bigger picture, so it's not just accommodating newly granted refugees, no. Bringing housing solution to a city is a good news to everyone, so that has a huge impact on health, mental health in different areas also. So this is the time we need to see the bigger picture, and I'd like to say thank you for organizing this, and let's see, so I wish to see a full stop to homeless crisis by 2030, finish it, so we can do it together. Thank you so much. Okay, Refugees at Home is a project, so you might have heard about a Home for Ukraine scheme, so that means a project funded by the government, working in partnership with the local authorities. The local authority mainly did the safeguarding, financial, all kinds of things are done by the local authority. But we don't have that kind of scheme available for people fleeing war and persecution from Iran, Iraq, Syria, Afghanistan, Yemen, so they all are human beings. And that's the place, Refugees at Home, this is an organization. They work in partnership with host families, so they have a spare room. And they will do the safeguarding, all the kind of checks, and they will connect you with the person to this family. So they might be staying for 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 3 months, even they are planning about extending for 1 month, It's not a free service, Some people, they are willing to host them free of charge, but many cases, newly granted refugees, they have the legal right to access public fund, or they can work. The main problem is finding the accommodation is the main problem. That's the main challenge, So having this 2 weeks, 3 weeks is a lifeline for sanctuary seekers to find an alternative solution. So if anyone has a spare room, so if you want to take out from Airbnb, I don't want to talk about that one. So I'm just saying, okay, I can use universal credit housing benefit, so to support a sanctuary seeker, and still you can get money, So it's not a free service, so you can get support towards that one. So, and you don't need to do everything; they will do it for you. So that's one of the ways we can be part of a solution.
Thank you for that. We did invite Refugees at Home to come, but again they're a purely voluntary organisation and they weren't able to come today. But if anybody wants to know more about them, you can find out about them through City Sanctuary or through just Googling it. We're going to get a bit of a different perspective now. Oliver is going to say a little bit about the landlord perspective and his role in that, and then afterwards one of Nomad's tenants, successful tenants, is going to say a little bit about their experience. So I'll pass over to Oliver now.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello? I don't usually speak on the microphone, I don't know where to hold it. Hi, yes, so my name is Oliver. I am the business manager at SDP Student Homes. We're a landlord with a portfolio of properties in Sheffield, ranging from one-bedroom apartments to traditional student houses. We have a few professional tenants, but our target market and the vast majority of our tenants are students. We were approached by Nomad in 2021 as they were looking to increase their bed spaces, and as we are an established local landlord with a portfolio of HMOs, Karen thought there was scope for us to work together. Before we worked with Nomad, we hadn't any experience in letting our HMOs to individuals who were at risk of homelessness. Therefore, we were initially a little bit sceptical. However, Karen rapidly put our concerns at ease, and we thought it was worth at least a 12-month trial with 13 bed spaces initially from July 2022. Nomad rapidly filled the 13 bed spaces, and we were amazed at how well their tenants looked after our properties. Our initial concerns about the tenants they were placing our properties soon went away, and we placed a further 18 bed spaces with Nomad in July 2023. Since the start of our relationship with Nomad, we have found them to be a fantastic and hard-working team, and we are happy to be placing a further 23 beds with them from July 2024. That's literally all I've written, I'm so sorry. I feel like
Jamie's going to talk to us now. And again, you don't have to keep rambling on if you don't want to.
I'll do my best.
You like to ramble though, don't you, Jamie?
I don't know what you're talking about. Hi, good morning everyone. My name's Jamie and I am a tenant with Nomad. So they asked me to come here and speak a little bit about my experience with them. It's horrible. So I contacted Nomad around May last year. I entered into a period of homelessness myself, however briefly. I think what Holly touched on is there really is an idea of survival mode within that. You can't really picture what your future is, and it is quite literally day to day. I approached Nomad because I'd gone to the council. The council essentially said to me, you seem like a perfectly fit, normal person, so tough. I then was suggested by someone to go back to the council and explain that I had severe mental health problems in order to be housed. And morally, I did not think that was right, as there are people with mental health problems who should be helped. I was conducted the interview with them. I was told that it could take up to 3 weeks before I'd be housed, which was rather devastating news. But within 48 hours, I had keys to a place. I think within that time, they're there every week just to check up on you, even if it's simply for 5 minutes to make sure that you're all right. They care about your needs. They want to make sure that you're tailored to getting back into society in the best way possible. And on a personal level, I just want to say thank you to all of them. It's been an amazing experience.
Thanks to everybody so far. We're going to hear a bit of a council perspective, I think, from Alexi now. I just wanted to say, I don't know whether you're going to cover this anyway, Alexi, but there's been various references to the council and who they do and don't house. Are you going to say anything about that? Because I'm quite happy to say it. Basically, there's a system about homelessness. You know, back in the day when I used to work for the council, and looking at me, you can tell that was ages ago. People who were homeless, by and large, had a right to expect to be housed by local authorities. But because there's been an unrelenting onslaught on what we call social housing, which is council housing but also housing associations, that is just no longer the case. And now they are required to house those defined as in priority need. And what that effectively means is families with children, although very often they will end up in bed and breakfast or hostels until they actually find a property, and people with very specific, severe physical and mental health needs. And nobody else will even get considered. And even the people who are in priority need don't always get housed very quickly. That is the reality of what we're in. Obviously that's part of a bigger national process that's been going on to privatise increasing levels of rented accommodation across the country. But it means that effectively the majority, for example, of refugees who received leave to remain in the period that Holly was talking about, from this last summer onwards, they're mainly in Sheffield, single men. And they don't, most of them, unless they've got severe mental health needs, do not fit into the category where the council feels it has a responsibility. So I just think it's important. I know some of you will probably know all this, but some of you may not.
Thank you, Emma. So my name's Alexi Diamond. I'm a councillor in Gleadless Valley. Firstly, I'd just like to say thank you to Emma and Karen, Nomad and SYMAAG for putting on this event. And also to all of the speakers and everyone that's working in this area to support people seeking sanctuary in this time of really difficult crisis. So I'm not on the Housing Policy Committee. I have managed to speak to some officers and the chair of the Housing Committee to get a bit of a briefing, so I can give you a bit of an idea about the picture in Sheffield. And in my conversations with them, it was described really as a perfect storm in terms of homelessness and in terms of the pressures that the council is under. So there's been a sustained increase in homelessness presentations, so people presenting to the council at risk of homelessness since the end of lockdown. And as of the 8th of March 2024, there are a total of 2,850 open cases in the city. And the top 3 reasons for people seeking help with homelessness is that their family is no longer able to accommodate them. That's 19.78%. Victims of domestic abuse, that's 19.4%. And then the end of private rented tenancy, so that's 11.2%. However, in the last 6 months, 14% of people approaching the council have been those with positive decisions from the Home Office. So that's a really dramatic increase. There's been huge pressure on the council. So there are currently, as of January 2024, there was a total of 693 households in temporary accommodation. 350 in which are families and 378 were single households. And that's increased from 348 households at the same time the previous year. So, there's a key challenge for the council to provide this temporary accommodation that people need. So in 2019 there were 114 units of temporary accommodation. The council managed to increase that to 430, but you can see that's nowhere near covering the gap. The other issue is for temporary accommodation, the council loses lots and lots of money because housing benefit does not cover the full cost of putting people in temporary accommodation, which is a charge per night. So in 2022-23, the council had to spend, or had a pressure of 5.9 million on temporary accommodation. The 2023-24 projection is 8.4 million, so that's a really substantial increase. And is projected to rise to over 15 million by 2028, so that's £50 million a year that the council will have to spend to support people in temporary accommodation. Overall, there are now over 24,000 households on the housing register for social housing. So 24,000 households are looking for social housing at the moment. And I was told by officers there is around 6,000 people bidding weekly for just 40 properties that go up on the register. So that's you can see how challenging the situation there is. I just wanted to say something a bit more about how there is a perfect storm. So you've got the council really needing to get more properties, both for the housing crisis generally, for more social housing for people, and also to provide temporary accommodation. But unfortunately, the council is competing with SYMAAG, for example, also NEARS, the Home Office provider, who is also trying to buy private rental housing or work with landlords in order to disperse asylum seekers from the hotels. And all of this creates an increase in private demand, the demand for private rental housing, pushing the prices up, making it both more unaffordable for people in the city and for the council, whose costs will increase. So, I mean, the council realises the situation it is in, the really challenging situation, and there's currently looking at lots of proposals, and some of the option is like having a new team of people to do housing advice, so more increasing the number of people that work on prevention, and so looking at having a new team of 8 people. So I think at the moment the caseload for each person working in prevention is maybe 100 people's cases that they're trying to work on at a time, which is sustainable at all. I mean, there's other things that we need to do, like even ideas sort of for the council to buy up a hotel themselves in order to provide some temporary accommodation. So that's another option. But I mean, none of this will happen overnight. We need to, as a council, procure more temporary accommodation. We also need to build more houses, social houses. But I don't think this is an issue that can be resolved without ending the right to buy. I think the right to buy means that it's just not economically viable, financially viable for councils to build houses, because they know that they might lose those houses at half the cost to build them. So personally, I think you're not going to resolve that situation long term without right to buy. But what the council does need to do, we've seen that there's a whole range of people that are in need of temporary accommodation, that are in need of social housing. The council does need to ensure equity so that people have equal access to that small and dwindling, it's not a dwindling number, but it's an ever-increasing competition for those places, but we need to ensure equity of access, and there are things that councils can do there. We know that sometimes when refugees are presented at Halton House, they haven't always got the support that they should have, and we've had a proper assessment. So I think there is work to do in that area, and the council would recognise that. I mean, personally, I work with Blesson at City of Sanctuary, and I'm the volunteer coordinator there, and it is really bittersweet when people get their leave to remain. So we have regular visitors to the sanctuary, but also we have a large volunteer team, 40% of which are people with lived experience of seeking sanctuary, and especially over the last 6 months, but throughout the whole time I've worked there, people have got their leave to remain, which has usually been like a cause for celebration, and it is a cause for celebration, but currently, as in the last 6 months, it has been bittersweet and a very difficult and worrying time, because we know that, as Emma was saying, if they're not going to be in priority need, then they're likely to be looking at a period of homelessness, and that's really hard to see. These people that we work with that are our friends, and to know that they're going to face a period of homelessness, and we can try and do things about it, but not in every circumstance will be able to avoid that period of homelessness. So yeah, I think that's why this event is so important. We've got to come together as a community, reach out to all organisations and people that we know, and come together to try and alleviate both the housing crisis generally and for people seeking sanctuary. So thank you very much.
So thank you to all our speakers. Very bleak and depressing picture in some respects, but everybody's here, and everybody's here aware that this is an event that everybody who is here is committed to trying to tackle the problems, which in a big sense are the problems of years of appalling government policy, to be absolutely honest. And I do mean years, I don't even just mean the last 12 years. However, I want to just take a few minutes before we get into discussion on the tables and move towards solutions, to just check two things. First of all, whether anybody has any very specific questions of any of our speakers, anything they didn't understand, they'd like elaborated on. And secondly, whether anybody here, because we did our best to kind of draw in all people who are trying to address this problem and have a sense of this problem, but if there's anybody here we missed missed out, who wants to add a little bit to the picture about the problem, this is your opportunity. So I just want to check that. Yeah, do you want to come up here? Just because I've only got one mic. You don't have to run, it's all right.
It'll be good.
Oh, yeah.
Hi there. Hello, folks. I just wanted a bit of clarity from Alexei on right to buy, because he almost sounded like at the end that he was advocating it as a policy, and I know he doesn't.
No, he said
Is that clear?
clearly that he was against it.
Excellent. Thank you very much. No, I didn't quite catch that, so it's my fault. Okay. No. Thank you.
Again, if anybody doesn't understand right to buy, it's one of the many ways in which social housing, housing for people in need, has been eaten away since Thatcher's days, which some of you won't even have been alive in, but you know, that's where it started. David.
Just one of the obvious solutions is for members of the public, people like us, to take somebody into their home. We've heard reference to there would be financial support. Now, could somebody just explain how any financial support for that would work? Because I think if we're going to persuade people to do this solution, then they need to know what would be the financial support.
Newly ground refugees they can access universal credit, and they can also apply for housing benefit. So if you're giving a tenancy agreement with a shared room or something, so you already seen that one, universal credit will give the local allowance fund is available for them. So that means the hosting family won't be doing out of their pocket, even though we have many cases that we don't need money. So they said, no, I think it's always giving that opportunity working partnership. The financial responsibility is available, but it's different for refused asylum seekers. That's a completely different subject, So refused asylum seekers getting to public fund money is a little bit tricky. But if anyone has a universal credit and the person hosting family willing to give a tenancy agreement, you can take that to the job center and you can get financial support to support. I think maybe Charlotte or someone might be able to clarify a bit more regarding that. Yeah.
I think it's important to say that the single room rate from the 1st of April is £350. So that's possibly what somebody would get if they were renting out one of their rooms.
Rachel, you want to?
I don't know enough about this. I have other comments I can make, but not on the particularly.
Yeah, this is a hosting, Refugees at Home is a hosting program provided by this organization. So many of the time people came to city centre and said, we don't know what to do. So we always signpost them because they have experienced what to do.
One thing I would say on it is also just
not have the book.
so not specific to just asylum seekers, but there is, even if you're on benefits and have a spare room, there is the rent a room scheme, and that gives you a tax allowance before you're taxed on any income that you do get. I'm Rachel from Shelter, by the way. But I just wanted to speak to Alexei's point on it's not just right to buy that has led to the net loss in housing. It is decades, as you've alluded to, Emma, since the sort of late 70s of refusal to build enough housing stock. And the net loss in Sheffield is huge. It's like 400% net loss over the last 20 years. So it is massive, the net loss in housing. And one thing I'd like to speak of, which everybody probably would know here in the room, but it's not just about finding accommodation and having a roof over your head. It has to be suitable, and the system has to be trauma-informed so that people can rebuild their lives, whether they have a 2-day brush with homelessness or they've come on massive journeys of thousands of miles before they get their decisions.
I don't want to get into a big discussion now. It's just whether there are extra things to add. I will invite people if they've got things to add. What I did want to say about the Refugees at Home scheme, don't get too excited about it because there are 2 limitations to it that I'm aware of. One is that in terms of the ongoing support that was just referenced by Rachel, that has to be provided by some organisation. There has to be an organisation to do it. Under the Ukraine scheme it was different because there was funding for that support. There isn't funding for that support for other refugees. And the second limitation was already referred to by Holly and ASO, because although somebody may be signposted there, it takes more than 28 days to get your universal credit or other benefit through. We all know that. So, you know, there are some limitations, but it is a positive scheme. Did you have something to add, Dave?
Yeah, I was just going to say, well, if somebody's living in social housing and they're being hit by the bedroom tax, could they take someone in? Would that be seen as subletting? Because that'd be a double winner. They could actually save by that room being filled and potentially get some benefit.
Rachel, quickly.
Sorry, I was just going to say,
Might
yes,
be
potentially. You would need permission.
Yeah.
It depends on your tenancy agreement. But secondly, it can have an impact on benefits and income. So it has to be done carefully, but it isn't, you know, ruled out, definitely.
So what, can you pass the mic to us? You don't have to come to the front. You like to come to the front.
Yes. Actually, as a human being, when you migrated, you know, as a asylum seeker or refugee, you expect you will be welcomed warmly, but unfortunately, you will be living homeless, and no one care about you, special by this anti-immigration, anti-migrants policy. I would ask if there is council or authority here, I don't know. I would ask how long we should wait. For example, even when you get the house, how long you should wait, as Alexi mentioned, 40 hours for 6,000 people. How long I should, every week, every month, pay it? Why you don't care about my time? And at the same time, why there is house for, with all respect for Ukrainian, why there is house for Ukrainian, why there is no house for us, why? Thank you so much.
I think there might be quite a lot of people here who have ideas in response to that, including SYMAAG, but I'm not going to look for an answer now. We've got 20 minutes in our tables, on our tables, to talk about the questions that are up here.
There's a response over here.
Oh, sorry, I missed someone. Can you either come here or somebody give you the mic? Sorry.
Hi, my name is Angela. I'm Councillor for Broomshill and Sharrow Vale. I was just like, my life has come together here. I used to work for Nomad, and I now work for City of Sanctuary, so it's like a triangle. I think what we need to do is also look at solutions, and I know that there are lots of conversations already going on amongst partners, and I think this event today, hi Karen, this event today shows that we need to come together to have the conversations so that we unblock the blockages, because we all face challenge. I mean, the local authority faces huge financial challenges where we have to present a balanced budget, where the central government funding to local authorities generally has dwindled in the last 14 years, and we have to provide the same services with a lot less money. So what we need to do is strengthen our partnerships and have the conversations and talk about it all the time wherever we are. I chair the Adult Health and Social Care Policy Committee, and there are certain things that I talk about every single meeting I go, even if it's not on the agenda. So what we need to do, we need to make a commitment as partners that we're going to raise it everywhere we go. We're going to say this everywhere we go. And that's how everybody then gets together properly and unlocks the blockages.
Very good introduction to what we're doing now, which is to start to focus on the solutions. So the questions are, what specific ideas for action do you have on your table? How can you specifically and your organisation help? Who else who might not be here can help? And then I'd like each table to agree 2 points to feedback, and we'll pull that together. We're not expecting to wave a magic wand today, I said that earlier. But absolutely what Angela said, working in partnership is critical for all this. The other thing I need to mention now is there is a sheet on your table, which I hope everybody signed in on, with their name and contact details. And before you leave today, anyone who wants to be part of the solution, to be involved in planning next steps from today, can put a star by their name on that sheet. So I'm going to hand over to the tables now. You've got 20 minutes. We'll come back together at 1:45.